Howdy, Bart here, and welcome back. What we're going to talk about for right now is, well, you can see that I'm being annoyed by the new plugins are available. No kidding. The plugin we're going to talk about is one that is free on the marketplace. It is called the Factions Extensions. And if you just go to either free, scroll down, you can find it, or you can just type in faction, and you can see right here, I already own it, and that's because it is free. Just click on it, add to cart, and then do your checkout like you would normally if you haven't done any other stuff from the marketplace. Then install the engine. Well, I've already done that and got it set up, got it running. But what we're going to need to do here is go ahead and go to this annoying thing right here, and it adds the installed here, and what you see is faction extension. So you want to enable that, and then you're going to have to restart your engine. So once you've actually downloaded it, installed the engine, fire up your project, go ahead and load the project up you want to work with, and then go ahead and enable the plugin. And if you're not familiar with where to get that, you just go to Edit and Plugins, and then once you enable it, go ahead and hit Restart Now. It's going to close your project down, restart your project, and bring it back up with that new plugin enabled. And I've already played around with it a little bit, but I don't have a whole lot of experience with it just yet. So now once it comes back up, you can close that. Now, I've created a project with nothing in it, so I'm going to go ahead and add new features, content. Again, I've showed this 100 times. Click on a big green button that says Add New. Go to the very, very top to where it says Add Features or Content Pack. We're going to add in a third-person example and add to project. And we can close that. So it's added that to our project here. So this is just a blank project that I've added third person into. And since we've done this, we've got our map here. Let's go ahead and go to our world settings. If you don't have world settings already set up, go to your window tab up here and put a check next to the box for world settings. Change our game mode override to third person game mode. And now we can hit play and we're in the map. Okay, lovely. So let's take a look at this Factions plugin. So you know me with setting up folders. So I'm going to create a new folder. We're going to call this Characters. And inside here, I'm just going to go ahead and create one called Blueprints. And inside here, I want to go ahead and get a copy of our third person character. Left click, drag it over, drop it on there, copy here. I'm going to go to this, I'm going to hit F2, I'm going to go ahead and create my player underscore base. And then I'm going to go ahead and open them up, do my usual things. Well, first off, I don't use a touch input, so I'm going to highlight all that stuff, dump it. I am not using a gamepad input, so I'm going to grab that, dump that, and I'm not using VR, so I'm going to dump that. And I'm just going to drag this over to here. And I just had to manually select that because if I don't, it'll do like this. I grab this and I go to move it, and one little ass doesn't want to go with it. So, whatever. Once you attach them together, then it seems to work. But alright, so this is our faction, our main player. We're going to go ahead and create a new player here, and we're going to actually just duplicate it. So you can do Control W, or you can right click on it and select duplicate. We're going to call this our NPC underscore base. Go into it, and we don't need any of that. We don't need a follow camera. We don't need a camera boom. So we have nice and blank project to work with. Compile and save and close it. And now I'm going to create a new one, and I want to create a new faction called the Crimson Skulls. I couldn't think of a better name, so we're just going to go with that. So we're going to go to Edit and Project Settings, and you'll have a new thing underneath Game called Factions. Now the first time I tried to do this, the whole editor crashed and I had to reload everything. So under our factions, we open up this tab here. We have one which is default, which is just a normal. If we open it up, we can actually see that it has a default color, and you can actually give it a manual color if you want. I'm actually going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and create a default or a neutral faction, and we're going to make that yellow. Drag that up here so we can keep that, because we can color our NPC that same color later on. And we'll click OK. And I'm going to change the name from default to neutral, neutral. And it is friendly towards itself, and default attitude towards others is neutral. Relations, it has no relations with any other group whatsoever, so that's good to go. We can leave that one alone, and we have our new neutral clan or faction. So now I'm going to create a new one, add element, and the name of this one's going to be my Crimson Skulls. And the Crimson Skulls, you actually have this. We're actually going to make it gave it a brand new color on its own, but we're going to go ahead and give this a pure red color. 0000, okay, whatever. And I'm going to go ahead and drag that up here. So now the Crimson Skulls are red. Attitude towards itself is friendly. Default attitude towards others is hostile. Sounds good, right? And it has no relations whatsoever. But if we want to add in relations, we can click on the plus tab, and towards neutral faction, well, there is no other one, so we can make them hostile towards neutrals or neutral towards neutral. We can leave them neutral towards them, so they won't attack other neutral NPCs or characters, but they will go after anybody else who is not part of the neutral clan, so to speak. So we've created our first new faction, which is called the Crimson Skulls. Their default color is red. Attitude towards their self. Now you could set this to neutral or hostile. If you set it towards hostile, like they could just be a parasitic zombie and walking around, and okay, now I want them to attack their own faction. They go around killing everything. So it could be like a shark or whatever. You know, just make it aggressive towards everything. But this is good for our first faction. It's called the Crimson Skulls. Their default color is red. Attitude towards themselves is friendly, but they're hostile towards everybody else. Alright, so we've done that. And from our NPC base, I'm going to right click and create child blueprint class. And I'm going to call this BP underscore CS for Crimson Skulls. Warrior. I'm just experimenting with stuff for right now. But since we want them to be different, let's go ahead and create a new, let's go ahead and save all. Actually, before we save all, let's create a new folder, because we got to have one for our maps folder. And we're going to go ahead and save all. And we're going to call this map test map. Good enough for me. So in my characters folder, I'm going to go ahead and quickly create one called mesh and another one called materials. And we'll need more later, but this is just for experimentation. So my mesh, I want to grab from the mannequin character mesh. I want to grab the sk underscore mannequin and copy that into the mesh folder. and rename it to SK underscore crimson. And that's good. We'll actually come back into him in just a minute. And then we'll go to our materials folder. We're going to grab these two. We're going to left click, drag them over to our materials folder, copy, and I'm going to rename that one to M underscore red underscore body. And this one I'm going to call M underscore red underscore logo. Go into our logo. We want to click on body color, and then click here, and then click our red. Click OK, and click Save. I know that's complicated, right? Red body. Come in here, right click, drag all the way across till we see body color. Select that. Click here. Click here. Click here for OK, and then save. So the compile shaders is going to do its thing. As soon as you stop seeing this right here in the middle of your screen, you can go ahead and close this down and go to your skeletal mesh. Alright, we're good there. So now we go into our mesh, and it's called SK Crimson, our red body, and our red logo. Save and exit. So now we'll go to our blueprints and our Crimson Warrior. Let's open our full blueprint editor. And first off, I'm going to dump everything out of here. Now, I'm going to see if I can remember how I was supposed to do this. And to set up a faction, you actually have to create a couple things first. Go to your class settings, and over here in implemented interfaces, it has no interface. So I want to add one, and I can start typing in faction, and it'll be faction agent interface, and then compile and save. Now we've got that, and here we need to assign that faction. So in the event get faction, first thing we need to do is actually create a new variable, and we're going to call this the faction, and come over to our variable type, and we're going to call this a faction, and do that. I'm going to go ahead, I don't know if I need to or not, but instance editable and expose on spawn, default category for now, replication, I'm going to say it needs to be replicated, but let's go ahead and hit compile and save. And now under faction, I can come over here and select Crimson Skulls. So now we've assigned the faction to be Crimson Skulls. However, we need to it was an event event set faction, and then from that event set faction we need to set faction there and there, connect that, compile and save. We still see our faction says Crimson Skulls, and that is fine. Now we can actually go into this and grab our faction from here, connect that, and apparently this has us all set up now. We should be good to go. And this is about as far as I've gotten on setting up from their tutorial on it. There actually is a an example project that came that you had a link you could actually download, and I have downloaded it. I haven't checked that out just yet, but we have now set the faction, so we know that our new character is actually going to be, and Actually, we need to go ahead and assign the mesh to our new Crimson mesh. Compile and save. Since it's still just a UE4 bot, you know, it's nothing special yet. We'll set him in here, and well, there he is. So yeah, we don't have anything just as of yet. So from there, we need to figure out what else we can do with this faction stuff. Looking at, if you create, you know, just right click and say faction, you get a list of things you can do here. You can get event set faction, so you can actually have your blueprint actually change the faction of your character. You can check to see if the faction's equal. So if you're setting up like get faction and whatever, if you wanted to find out if their neutral is equal to whatever, I mean that's, you know, you know how to use an equal variable. Get attitude to faction, get attitude towards, get faction info. I mean, if you get the faction info and do this, and then you got your return value here and your info, and you can break that faction info and get like your color, the name, attitude towards itself, and attitude towards others. You can actually get all that information from all that. So yeah, you can break it, you can set new members of it, you can actually, you know, there's a lot of interaction we can get with that. I'm actually going to go ahead and compile and save, and I'm going to do a save all real quick. And while I'm thinking about it, with the fact that there was a project that you can download and run, I'm actually going to extract that, take a look at it. It wasn't a very big download, so I don't know what all is in it yet. So I'm actually going to go ahead and close this project here down and run their project. Yeah, it's 419, and then it'll go ahead and generate a new project. So you guys are seeing this project. It could be Naked Ladies, I don't know. So I haven't seen this project yet, so we'll see it together and kind of figure out what's going on with this this plugin. What I can see is it has its uses. If you're trying to create an RPG and you want to have a series of factions, and any actor can be a faction, can have a faction assigned to it, from what I'm told. The plugin was designed for 418. Lovely. No, I don't want to rebuild anything. So I'm already getting errors with the link they provided for a sample project. So it's not boding well. So could I actually try loading it again? I don't want to try to load that other project. Alright, so their project is just not going to work because it was built for 418. So that could be problematic. So I'll go back into the one we already had set up. Yeah, an NVIDIA update earlier that forced me to have to install it, and it was causing all kind of issues. I couldn't even run Unreal Engine 4. Yeah, and it looks really easy to work with overall, but I'd already created something relatively similar to it. But with that, being able to assign a major faction and being able to call it a lot easier in the blueprints, so it has its uses. As for why you actually had to do this and everything else, I don't know. but this is what they said you had to do to be able to get it to be a recognized part of the faction. So from that, you would still have to do, if you wanted your NPC to be able to walk around. Let's go to our test map. Let's actually turn our player around because, well, let's actually just move this guy over here because we're facing the wrong damn direction. And spin him around. So right now, he doesn't do anything. He just kind of stands there and does his idle. Got my eye on you, boy. Yeah. So, just for the giggles, if we want to be able to walk around to begin with, let's go ahead and do volume nav mesh bounds. And let's make sure it's in 000. And we'll scale it out a little bit. So we just want a nav mesh bound. So we hit P, make sure, yes, he can walk around that area. Good to go. So now he can walk around and he has room that he can go to. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my player, push him back over here. I hate the spherical reflection capture because I often hate things that I don't understand. I'm going to drag these down here just because, well, just because. Alright, so again, he's just going to sit there and do nothing, and I'm going to get pissed off because I have the mouse cursor issue that is not really a problem. It doesn't really affect anything but me. So I just go in here to event begin play and set input to game mode only. And I need to get player controller and set show mouse cursor to false connect you. And alright, it's not even a really major consideration, but when I first go into the map, I get a mouse cursor. I have to click inside the map to be able to walk around, and it only affects me, it seemed like, and it only affects the fact that it's in the regular viewport, and no matter where I change that option, it always comes back. So yeah, it just, I deal with it that way and just change it. Usually I have that functionality built in somewhere into one of my things. So off the event begin play, it's setting up an input mode and doing that anyway. But just for now, that's what I do. It settles my OCDs, and if I'm happy, then nobody else is happy. Anyway, we want to make our character walk around a little bit. So let's go from event tick. And we're just going to give our NPC some basic movements. We're going to create a variable called isMoving. And yes, my OCD, I have to put a question mark on the end. So we need to ask, is our dude moving? And we're going to get a branch and ask, are you moving? And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag all this out because by dyslexia I also screw things up. So what we're going to tell our NPC to do is AI move to, and we want him to move. We want to get his button gear, move around, but we need a destination. We need a pawn. Well, from the pawn, let's go ahead and get a reference to self, because we want him to be the one that's doing it. And we're not worried about a target actor right now because, well, we might manipulate that later to see if we can do anything with the faction stuff. But for now, from our destination, we need to drag off from there and get random point and navigatable radius. We'll grab that doohickey. That's the technical term, doohickey. And we need an origin. Where are we starting from? So let's go ahead and get a reference to our mesh. And we want to get world location. So we're going to grab our world location. We're going to throw that into the origin. Tell it to get a random point in navigatable radius. That radius is going to be 1,000 because we've got a small map. And we need to drag off from here and set is moving to true because we're telling him to move and he's moving. So that's going to be that. But here's what we need to do now is on success. We want to add in a delay. We don't have to, but we also want on fail to come to this delay, and we want to have a random delay. So let's random float in range, and no, idiot, random, learn how to type, ANDOM, float in range. Yes, now that we get the stupid out of our system, partially, we can connect that to our duration. Let's scooch those guys a little bit closer, and let's make our delay be anywhere from 2 seconds to 10 seconds. So now, whenever we do that, we can do set is moving to unchecked, so he's no longer moving at that point. So what will happen is we're telling him, or we're asking him, are you moving? Then if it is false, see, you were going to let me click on that. If we're not moving, then we're telling him to move. And telling him how to move by getting your current location and picking a random point within 1,000 meters or 1,000 units, and then move to that location, wait between 2 and 10 seconds, and then do it again. So let's hit compile and save, and let's see if that actually works. How about that? It runs over there, he waits, random between 2 and 10 seconds, and then he'll turn around and pick another point and walk to there. There you go. So him is working. That's a very, very simple way of just getting NPCs to just move around the map. Now, there's no pawn sensing to him just yet. And there's no way of saying, okay, well, I've detected an enemy, then what do I do when I detect him? Well, that's when you really need an AI behavior tree. There are some cheaty ways of actually doing it, and I usually fail at doing it. So let's actually go to our viewport, add a component, and it's a pawn sensing. And we'll click on that pawn sensing. Actually, we'll hit compile and save, and then click on pawn sensing. So now it's got a big, huge area there. So let's actually change the cone for his sight radius, or his sight. Peripheral vision angle. Let's bring that down. I usually like to go to about 60. So he's got a 60-degree cone in front of him where if he detects, then he'll actually, oh, I see you and I'm going to go to you now. So let's compile and save. And from here on our pawn sensing, right click, add event on see pawn. On see pawn, and the pawn we were going to see is, well, only one, is going to be our player base, cast to player, oh, this happens from time to time. Well, first off, we're not using player base just yet. So we're on third person game mode. We want to actually use our player underscore base. Save all, save again, and hit play. Well, you come running up on my face like that for, huh? And why you just walk right off the damn edge, idiot? So, okay. So he works, I work, and we'll do a quick build just to get that lighting thing done. So it'll take a couple seconds. So we need to finish doing our lovely lighting build. Okay, it's complete. All right, thank you. Go away. Our pawn is player_base. See, now I can cast to player_base, which is our player character that we're using. So when he sees the player, we need to get world location, and we can use, we have 2 of them for the mesh. Lovely. Well, we're just going to pick one. So we're going to grab the location of our mesh, and that's going to give us our location to work with. Then we want to come off from here, and we want to drag way off of here. AI move to, so you got location or actor, and I've never really used this particular one here, and we'll try it. AI controller. I don't have an AI controller though. If I hit compile and save, it's going to be an issue because I don't know what the actor is. Like I said, I've never used that before, so I'm not going to use it this time. So AI move to, and from there it's just going to keep pulling in the destination, and we can actually come off from our player_base, go to our target actor, and pawn we still want to get self, get a reference to self. So probably screwed this up, but we'll see. I'm not going to change the acceptable radius yet. Stop on overlap, not going to mess with that just yet either. So compile and save. And let's let him move and see what he does. There we go. He ran right to me. But he stopped. He didn't continue to follow me. So what happens now? Now he sees me and runs over to me, but I can walk away from him and he doesn't follow me. So every time he sees me, he's going to come over to me and be attracted to me. I know I'm handsome and stuff. As long as he can see me, he'll keep following me, but as soon as I run out of his vision, then he stops following. Why are you looking out the edge of the world there, bro? So this ignores the normal AI move to, and he'll keep following me and come to me as long as he can see me. But I can dupe his ass and get out of his line of sight, and he's like, I don't know where he went. As soon as I get in his view again, he'll come after me. So that's a simple way of getting the character to actually, and we can go back to our pawn sensing as well, and we can open that angle back up to 70 to make it even wider. You can also add in on that sound wise, if you make a noise, then it can be attracted to noise and come to you. But that's a very, very simple system of getting the player to come to you, but there's no aggression, there's no attacks just yet. You'd want them to be able to do some sort of attacking movement or whatever, and that's where, if you're going to set up a shooting system, that's where you would set that up, or any other your combat systems would be set up that way. But how do we get it to, just an experiment here, ignore a faction? So if we add in another NPC that was a neutral, could we get them to attack the neutral, or ignore the neutral, or ignore us and only focus in on the neutral? We need to figure out how to tie in those factions to this normal pawn sensing stuff. So we can cast to our player base. It's only going to come to us. So we have faction. Faction is set up still right here. So got our basic movement there. Got our faction set right there, and our on-sea pawn. Pawn sensing. The only events you have is on-sea pawn, on here noise, on component activated. But we see the pawn here, but it's just this one. It's just us, the player. Any player that just happens to be within range, this NPC is going to chase after him. So what do we do with the factions? Can we actually just go ahead and look at our NPC base? Now, we didn't put any of that in our NPC base. So what we could actually do is recreate this same setup here. So let's actually create a new faction. Again, just experimenting with this. I'm going to actually duplicate this guy. Don't know how well that's going to work, but we're going to call this BP underscore neutral NPC, lack of a better word or setup here. So all this is here. We're going to go ahead and hit save, close it back down, and quickly create a duplicate of that. We're going to call it SK underscore neutral. And our materials, grab those two, Control W, and we're going to rename that to yellow. So we got the yellow body, and rename that one. So we'll go to our logo, grab our color, our yellow we created earlier, okay, and save, close that, go into our yellow body, same thing, come to our body color, our default value, pick our yellow, okay, and save. And then wait for a few moments for it to actually do its thing. Alright, as soon as that gets off my screen, I can go ahead and close this. And now, go back into my mesh, SK neutral, change the body color, change the logo color, and he is good. So now if we go into our blueprints and our BP neutral, go to our mesh, our viewport, change him over to neutral, and now he is the yellow guy. So our neutral guy, we want him to on-sea pawn and our pawn sensing. We want, first off, let's make sure that he works correctly, and we'll come to the pawn. See, he just saw me and like boom, run right to me. So what we want to do is we want to have the red guy continue to follow me, but the yellow guy ignore me. So we can see if we can do that with our factions. So cast to player base. We know we need all that stuff right here, but get faction, and if faction equals None. Well, we don't have a faction for the player yet. Let's actually create a a faction here. And what we had to do was our class settings, add in the interface for faction agent interface, compile and save, and then we needed to event set faction. We needed to add a variable, which was faction. So I don't think you can drag off of this, and you can promote the variable. And let's actually delete that one, rename this one to faction, compile and save, set the faction, which let's go ahead and create that new one. Go to edit, project settings, factions, and let's create a new one. We're going to call this the player. So we have a player faction now. And color is going to be white, whatever. And our relations, we are neutral to neutral and none, so we're neutral with them. And attitude towards ourselves, we are neutral towards each other because we like to bash each other with sticks. Default attitude towards others is neutral. Alright, so that's good, I believe. Let's actually add in this right here, one more. So we are, to the Crimson Skulls, we are hostile. For neutral, let's open up that one. And we're hostile towards everybody else. Crimson Skulls, yep, that looks good. Yeah, it looks fine. Neutral is neutral. So yeah, whatever. That's good there. So we need to go into our interface. Event get factions. Let's connect our faction to here. We need to ensure that faction says player. Compile and save. Let's click on our faction again here. We are set. We are good to go. We are player. So let's look at if faction equals player. Oh, would you stop being a jackass? Let's, well, this kind of defeats the purpose here, because we're giving it all this move to tell it to go toward the player. But let's, just to see if it works, let's add in a branch. And with that branch node, we need to ask, is it the player? And for the first test, you can kiss my ass. You can move like I told you to. We need to ask, are you the player? Or is that a player that I'm actually targeting? If it's true, then it's going to go ahead and move over there. So let's go ahead and look at that and make sure that it's still working, that whenever Dodo here in the yellow actually turns around and sees us, we want him So he's not coming to me. So from our neutral player, it's asking, are we a player? Then it should automatically just come right over to us. Compile and save. Let's make sure that this... Oh, we see. We got faction here for the neutral is actually needs to be neutral. And we're checking to see if it's the player. There. It's absolutely backwards from what I just told it to do. It's checking to see if the faction is equal to player. If it's true, then it should come to the player. And you see this, right? Okay. It is absolutely not coming towards me. Red still comes towards me, but yellow does not. However, if I reverse it, I'm asking, is this the player? Is the faction that I'm coming towards... wait. We need to do this. From here, get faction, and if the faction is equal to player, let's try that. Now let's move this over here and move this over here. No, you asshole. I don't like your node. Your node doesn't want to move correctly. So now it's going to ask, is that faction that I'm seeing, is that person that I'm coming after, is it a player faction? If it is true, then I come to them. So now let's go ahead and hit play, and hello. Red sure is following me, but yellow is not. Alright, so let's try it off of the false. So now what I'm asking is, I want to get the faction. Is the faction equal to player? If it is not, then if it is the player, then you should run to him. Is what I'm trying to get. But what I'm saying here is, when I see the pawn, is it a player? Yes, it's the player, but is it a player faction? If it is part of that faction, if it is not part of that faction, then go to it. So this is actually set up opposite of how it should be. And it's working absolutely backwards. So now it won't stop chasing me. So I don't freaking get it. The faction that we've set for our player is player. And we're asking it to get the faction here. And get the faction. Now if we did it the other way, which was get faction like this, get the targeted faction, and then we do the equal and enter, then say player, go to that. Oh, it's so annoying. So we need to figure out why this is absolutely backwards. You guys are letting me do it backwards. Now see the pawn. The pawn is the player underscore base. I want to check the faction. If that player's faction is equal to player, then if it's false, then we run to him. So if the player's faction is not player, then it should ignore it. Alright. We know red's following us. But see, it's working backwards from how it should be. Working is working, so I guess, that's one thing. I mean, it does. They are coming towards me, so whatever. So if I want them to not come to me, then I would just connect that. But so what was the whole point of us adding in this if it isn't loading in correctly? So let's leave it like that, and alright, what kind of questions have we got dealing with this so far? So the whole point of adding in the faction part is kind of pointless right now, because I can actually take that right back out of there, and we're not able to use anything with the faction just yet. So we're going to move to the player as a neutral on success and on fail. So when we do that, we want them to continuously follow the player, or for the enemy, but the faction is neutral. Faction, out faction, neutral. Everything seems to be there and logical. I can think of a lot of potential uses for this, but actually right now, looking at it, without having any attack animations or anything else set up like that, so for like our Crimson Warrior here, we want him to attack the player whenever he gets close. And that's one thing. Another thing that I've actually done is, now that you're setting up, if you're setting up a combat system, now one of the things I wanted to do with my menu system for my game itself is have it set up to where there's a medic system. With having a hunger and thirst system in the menu, it requires players to actually have, or in the lobby, players actually have to eat and drink to stay alive. If you don't buy any food or drink and consume them, your player will begin to go into dehydration or starvation, and once you get down there, it'll start taking away health and it will actually kill you. Well, we don't want players just laying around dead all over the place, so a way to prevent that from happening is you have a medic bot, and the medic bot will actually come in and say, hey, I detect that there is somebody without any, with low health, or they're dead or whatever else, and they would come out there, revive you, give you a booster shot of 10% hunger and thirst, and send you on your way. But would have to have some form of counter system, like, well, I've done it twice. The third time it's just going to let you stay dead and haul your corpse away, kick you out of the game. Sort of an AFK feature, an auto AFK dealing. Or if it happens a second time within an hour, or a session login or whatever else, then it detects that you're AFK at that point, and it will kick you out of the server. But it will lock your character. Need some way of punishing the player for being AFK that's non-detrimental, but will also just get them out of the server so they're not just wasting bandwidth in server space. So like we always do here before, I can go in here and let's create a gadget folder. And I'll just go ahead and create a blueprint, actor, pane, pad. You guys have seen me make these pane pads a dozen times. And all it is just a cube. Resize it to 2 by 2 by 0.1 to make the basic pad itself. And then we're going to go ahead and add in a component. That'll be a box collision. And we're going to resize that box collision to 2 by 2 by... We can leave 1 on that. We'll do 2.5 by 2.5 by 0.2. Yes. That's fine. That's lovely. So with the paint pad, we want to add an event of on component begin overlap. Bang. We don't need the rest of that junkola. Clear that off. And we're going to, from other actor, cast to player underscore base. And we are going to, first off, we need to quickly go in here to our player, add in a new variable, health. We're going to call it a float. Compile and set it to 100 and then compile and save again. I'm not worried about getting too in depth with like a heads up display so we can see our health or whatever else, but with that we're going to go ahead and get health. We want to set health. So first off, we're going to get a reference to our health. We're going to float minus float. We're going to subtract. Let's give us a good little chunk here. 50 damage. It's not like we're setting up a death animation or anything like that. But we step on the pad, bang, it's going to give us, it's going to take away 50 of our health. We do it twice, we're going to be at 0. So, and let's actually print text, and let's do this to here. So we want to actually print out what our current health is. Compile and save. So with our paint pad, what we're going to do is just set it over here. It's only going to affect us. Walk over, bang, our health is 50. Walk over it again, our health is 0. Good enough. Alright. Now what we want to do is go back to our neutral guy. Let him continue to do his roaming thing. And actually, we'll leave that alone for now. And what we're going to do here is we're going to add in some functionality to this part. We're going to go ahead and we need to get health. And what we're going to do is, just to test this out, and this will be our medic bot. We're going to move this out just a little bit. We can go ahead and get a branch node. So we can get our health and we want to find out if our health is less than or equal to 0. That's good enough. And if it is 0, then we want them to come to the player. We don't want this to be on C pawn. Let's actually get rid of the wandering stuff for now. And we're going to make this run off of the event tick. I'm going to try to neaten this up a little bit here. And get player character reference. So on our event tick, we're going to, and our dude's just going to be standing around doing nothing here. But it's going to run off the event tick. It's going to be checking to see if the player's health is equal to 0. If it is, we want them to then find where we are in the world and come to see us. And they're going to rescue us. So first off, we'll try this out, and we'll see on the event tick. We'll see if he'll actually come to us then. So he's just going to stand there and look away. Oop, our health is 50. Oop, our health is 0. And now, because it's 0, he's going to keep following us, and that's cool. So let's go ahead and go into our player, NPC base, new, player underscore base. So now, once he comes over to us, on success, we'll try it off of this right here. Let's actually get our player's health. Get health. And we're going to set health. So we need both of those. We need to put this over here. We want to do health. So float plus float, and we're going to give us 25 health. We're running off of the on success, and let's see what happens with this. And we're going to set our health to this, and we're going to, just for the giggles of it, we're going to go ahead and print text with the amount that he gave us, so we should see our health at that point. And it appears that the YouTube's is acting a little bit stupid again. Plus we're at the hour mark, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to call it after we do this test here. So we see, okay, we got 50 health, we have 0 health. Dude's going to come over, and didn't work on the on success. Hello, just threw out the whole world here. No, because I did it off of duration. Not that. Alright, so let's hit our paint pad again. Alright, I'm going to have to get rid of the red guy. He's just going to annoy the crap out of me right now. So, we're at 0. He comes over, and he can't get close enough to us. But if I jump on his head, it just... And I know how to fix that issue. Bang. So, what we need first off is a do once node. So let's grab these guys, pull that off of there, and do once. And the on success, we want to do once, and then it should reset. So we'll leave it there for now. We'll probably have to tweak that later on, but you can sit there and set it to where it gets within a certain radius of the player, and it'll actually perform that action. So now we're at 0. He runs over, and you just can't quite get close enough. But if I were to jump, he's giving us the health, but we're not able to get close enough to him. Acceptable radius 5. Let's actually change that to 25, and let's see what happens with that. That might be enough to fix it. Nope. So now he should not follow us because we now have more than 0 health. But if we run over this again, he's going to give us 25 health. Yeah. Again, something to play around with, trying to get the distance right. You could probably set up something in your world location to come up with, and you're being a pain in the ass again, not wanting to refresh. We'll set it within 100 units. If that doesn't take care of it, then we'll worry about it another time. There we go. Yep, that was good enough. So what happens now is when we're at 0, and the do once is preventing him from actually doing just enough. So let's actually raise that up to 50 health. That way he fixes what we lose each time we walk on the pad. So we walk on the pad, we're at 0, he comes over, takes us back to 50, and he stops following us. But if we get down to 0 again, we want him to reset that, and that's just going to be a matter of doing a reset. What is our reset? Should come off of here. And let's see if that fixes the reset on the do once. So we're at 0, bang, comes over, and that didn't work. So now we're at 450 health. So we'll have to address that. Yeah, we're 500 health. We're going to change the reset point. Alright, so what we've done is we've checked the player. We see that the player's health is 0. So let's actually change that to an equals. Equal float. So if the player's health is equal to 0, it will come find us. If it is not, then it should reset. See, on success, there you go. But on fail, on faults on the branch, it should reset because we are no longer there. We're no longer below 0 or at 0. Oh well, I'll fiddle around with that and see what I can come up with on it. But we're going to go ahead and call it quits for this video, and I want to thank everybody for watching. And what I can do when I learn a little bit more about this factions thing, we'll work that out, and I'm going to keep working on stuff like this, which is my medic bot system. But yeah, whatever. Thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.